I'm 35 years old and live with my partner in a bustling urban neighborhood. Our home is at the end of a row of houses, so we frequently get visitors at our door trying to sell things. My partner recently started a new job, which required a 2-week training session in Florida. While I wasn't thrilled about being alone for 2 weeks, I decided to make the best of it by indulging in shows and cooking meals my partner doesn't enjoy. After my partner left, I stuck to my usual routine. I work part-time, around 20 hours a week, which means I spend a lot of time at home watching TV and keeping the house clean. One afternoon, I heard a knock at the door. Assuming it was a delivery, I waited for the sound of the glass door closing, but it never came. There was another knock. Not feeling up to dealing with a stranger, I ignored it and continued watching TV. After a third knock, I paused my show and peeked out the window. There was an unfamiliar man at the door, so I decided not to answer. He looked frustrated, but eventually left. The incident left me uneasy, but I tried to shrug it off. A few days later, after returning from work and starting dinner, I heard another knock. Looking through the blinds, I saw the same man from before, this time accompanied by another guy. The first man was large and muscular, reminiscent of Dwayne Johnson, holding a clipboard. The second guy was slender and taller than me. "Can I help you?" I asked. "Yes, we're here to install your security system. We're from a security company," the big guy said. I own the house, which I purchased before meeting my partner, and we had never installed a security system. "I didn't schedule an appointment. You must have the wrong house. Your partner probably set it up and forgot to tell you," he suggested. My partner and I always discuss major decisions, so this seemed off. He showed me a clipboard with my address on it, and I hesitantly unlocked the glass door to take a look. The form seemed typical. "We just need to inspect the house for weak points to install the sensors. It won't take long," he explained, with his partner nodding in agreement. "I'm home alone right now because my partner is at work, so I'm not comfortable letting you inside," I responded. "We're really from the security company," said the skinny guy, showing a name badge. "I could make a badge saying I'm the president, but that doesn't mean anything," I replied sarcastically. The big guy began gesturing as if he was going to enter, so I told them I was canceling their services and they needed to leave. He seemed angry and pushed against the partially open door, staring down at me menacingly. "We really need to take care of this now," he insisted, looking past me into the living room. Angry and scared, I told them to leave and that I would reschedule another time. I shut and locked the door, waiting for them to leave. They walked away, and once I was sure they were gone, I texted my partner. They had no idea who these men were. I then Googled the security company's phone number and explained the situation to a representative, who confirmed they had no record of an appointment. Frightened, I was advised to go to the police and make a statement. The police said they couldn't do much without more information, but agreed to patrol the neighborhood a few times a day. I ensured all windows and doors were locked and tried to move on. The following week, after a lunch outing with my mom, we returned home to find my neighbor outside. While introducing my mom, a plain, unmarked car pulled up. A woman approached and said, "Hi, I'm from the security company. My partner was here a few days ago to do an installation, but you wouldn't let him in." Annoyed, I said, "There must be a mistake. I called your company, and they have no record of any appointment at our house. Who are you?" Stay here while I call the police. When I went inside to call 911, the woman ran away. The police said they couldn't do anything since I didn't get the car's license plate number. The entire ordeal was eerie and unsettling, but fortunately, they haven't returned since. My mom and I are still trying to make sense of what actually happened, and the more we discuss it, the more baffling it becomes. So, I'm an 18-year-old guy, and my family, except for my brother who is around 22 years old, stayed at his cabin a few miles away. I'm accustomed to staying home by myself, since this happens frequently during the summer. It's typical because I have a job and can't travel back and forth from the cabin. I'm no longer usually afraid or uneasy when I'm alone at home, as I've become familiar with the creaks and sounds of our old house. Having my brother's dog with me was comforting, as most noises I heard could be attributed to him, whether it was creaks or thumps in the house. If something unusual occurred, he'd bark loudly to alert me. However, he's the kind of dog that barks at any sound or person outside, so his barking at night was something I was used to. But on Friday, his barking around midnight really concerned me. Even though I'm used to being alone at home, I'm still fearful of the idea of a break-in or someone coming by uninvited. Typically, I let him bark for a few seconds, thinking it was just someone passing by our glass door in the nearby alley. I told myself he'd stop barking once they moved away. As you might guess, that's not what transpired that night. He kept barking and growling for too long, so I got out of bed, which is in the basement, and went upstairs to investigate. Just as I thought, he was standing alert by the glass door. It reassured me for a moment, but when I walked closer to close the curtains and go back to bed, I saw the door was ajar about 2 or 4 inches. I froze. I had let Max out earlier that night, but I know I closed the door. I've never left this door open before. I'm a cautious person with severe anxiety, especially about break-ins and such. So normally, when I'm alone at home, I'm always diligent about closing the door. I'm absolutely certain about this, but in that moment, I didn't allow myself to ponder these facts or accept that I couldn't have left the door open. I knew it would trigger anxiety, perhaps even a panic attack, if I couldn't explain it. I closed and locked the door, ensuring it was securely locked. Since all the lights were off, I used my phone's flashlight to examine the entire second floor of my 3-story house. I peeked into closets and other places where someone could hide just to reassure myself. I didn't find anything, so I went back downstairs to my room. While I was downstairs trying to calm down, I heard Max walking above me on the floor that's also my bedroom ceiling. I thought I might be imagining things when it began to sound like human footsteps mixed with Max's. He paced around for about 10 minutes before I put on my earphones and reassured myself until I could fall asleep. Later that same night, at 2 a.m., my brother came home from work. A few minutes before this happened, I woke up to find Max in the basement, which he never goes to. There's even a gate to keep him out. He was whining at my bedroom door. When I got up to let him out, my brother walked in, so we both decided to let him out through the front door instead of the glass patio door, using the same route to let him in. We chatted for a bit before I went back downstairs, and my brother went to the bathroom. I got caught up with work and forgot about the door. Over the next few days, I didn't mention it to anyone until tonight. So my brother and mom were home with me for a movie night, while my dad and sisters were at the cabin. I remembered the door while we were selecting horror movies to watch, when my brother suddenly said that about an hour after they came home that same night, the door was open again. It was the same door that had been locked from the inside and hadn't been opened since earlier that evening. My stomach dropped, and I started trembling as soon as he said that. At first, we tried to come up with explanations, like maybe my brother had let Max out and forgot to close the door. But then we recalled we used the front door that night. After that, we tried to figure out why someone would break in and not take anything. Eventually, I started to think that I might have accidentally locked someone inside the house. Then that person would be stuck up there, realizing the house wasn't empty, despite it seeming that way with everyone else in my family away and all the lights off. Plus, there's a dog who would bark if they tried to come out, letting me know they were still there. Then, while I was in the basement and my brother was in the bathroom, they must have dashed out through the glass door. This aligns with when they discovered the door open again, wider than before, as if they were rushing to leave quickly or to avoid the loud noise of it slamming against the door frame. Either way, it fits together too well for me to easily dismiss it. I know it's not very likely, especially since nothing was taken, but in this small town, there have been numerous reports of break-ins where nothing was stolen, or just vandalism and break-ins many times, so it's not as improbable as it might be in a larger city. I'm really perplexed and disturbed thinking about the idea of someone being in my house while I was asleep alone in the basement. Part of me doesn't want to believe it, but there are too many odd things that fit together to ignore how concerning this is. This happened more than a decade ago, so I'll do my best to recall everything clearly. When I was a child, my home had a balcony connected to my mother's bedroom and my room with large double glass doors. There were 2 trees next to the balcony, and I often climbed one of them to get up and down. The balcony faced the street. One night, when I was about 13 years old, I was home alone because my brother and mother were out. I was reading in bed with a small dim light on. I heard a noise, like something moving in one of the trees outside, but I wasn't concerned because we often had possums and bats in our area. I had thin curtains on the glass doors, and they faced the street, so the light from the street lamps always came through. After I heard the noise in the tree, I saw a shadow slowly move past the doors. I quickly turned off my reading light and stayed very still. The shadow was tall, so it wasn't one of the neighbor kids I knew or my mom, who was only 5 feet tall. The person moved slowly, as if trying not to be noticed. They probably couldn't see into my room, but I could see them because the street lights behind them created a dark silhouette. I sat there, unable to move or think, just staying very still. Then I heard another sound, someone trying to open the glass door. I wasn't sure if my mom had locked them or not, but I didn't want to take any chances. So I moved quickly and quietly to my bedroom door and locked it. I listened to what the person was doing. They were still trying to open the glass door, but it sounded like it wasn't opening. I felt relieved. This person couldn't get in, right? I just had to wait for them to realize that. I heard light footsteps moving back along the balcony to my glass doors. I saw the shadow stop right in front of them. I froze again. They couldn't see me, or know that I could see them. I saw the shadow of a hand reaching for the door handle, and my heart stopped. I thought to myself, had I locked those doors today? I was out there earlier. What if I forgot? The seconds before they grabbed the handle felt like forever. Fortunately, when this person tried to open the door, it didn't open because it was locked. I sighed with relief, worried that they might have heard me. After that, they started walking back and forth on the balcony. I didn't have a cell phone because my mom thought I was too young for one, and the landline was at the other end of the house. But I was too scared to look away from this person, even to call for help. I was silently crying, tears streaming down my cheeks as I prayed inside that they would just leave. Then I heard them stop moving. They said, I could just break the glass, you know. Before I could even think about that, I saw car headlights turn the corner onto my street and stop at our gate. My mom had come home. The person on the balcony moved away, and I heard a loud thump as they jumped off. When my mom came inside, I was hysterical and couldn't clearly explain what had happened. Eventually, I managed to tell her, and she called the police. They never found or caught anyone, but a neighbor reported seeing a truck in the street that matched the description of a vehicle involved in attempted child abductions near my school, just a block away. Since I walked that short distance every day, the police thought maybe he had followed me and waited for a chance when I was alone. In 2018, I traveled to Seoul for a week by myself. I was still studying then, doing a semester abroad in Kyoto. Seoul is expensive, so I booked a bed in a hostel. It was supposed to be a mixed dorm for 6 people. When I arrived, I found out I would be sharing a room with 5 men who were already staying there. At that time, I was still quite naive and didn't think much of it. Besides, the hostel was already fully booked. There was 1 guy from Japan, 1 from Korea, 2 from China, and 1 from Germany in my room. The German guy made me uneasy from the start, especially the way he stared at me, but I ignored it because I would be out all day anyway. Every day, he asked if I wanted to hang out and see the sights together. I prefer to do this alone, so I always came up with an excuse. One time, I accepted his invitation to explore Namyangju, but it was very awkward. We had very little to talk about besides small talk. Then the following morning, as I was getting ready, putting on makeup and doing my hair, he just stood there and watched without saying anything. I got really annoyed and told him, "Hey, can you stop staring at me? It's really creepy, you know." But he just shrugged. Anyway, the whole week I felt uncomfortable, but tried my best to avoid him. The other guys in my dorm room were actually very nice. We even went out for dinner together one night. Then on my last day, I woke up too early and fell back asleep. The next time I woke up, he was sitting by my bedside, touching my arm and shoulder. I immediately sat up and asked what he was doing. Even though he was only touching my arm, I felt very disgusted. I always thought I would scream and curse at someone in a situation like this, but I was just dazed and shocked. He then confessed his love for me and said he wanted to meet up when we were back home. When I told him it wasn't possible to be in love after just a week, he insisted he knew his feelings and wanted to show me affection. I felt sick to my stomach. Luckily, he was leaving that morning too and suggested we go to the airport together, but I insisted on taking a later bus, and thankfully, he agreed. I couldn't wait for him to leave and for me to be on my own. I'm glad I didn't see him at the airport, but at one point, I just started crying. It had been so exhausting to reject his advances all week and then gently tell him I wasn't interested. I don't even know how I managed to stay calm and polite to him, but who knows how he would have reacted if I had been aggressive. Looking back, I think I should have insisted on changing rooms. After that experience, I never doubted my instincts again.